All right. So, as always, anytime you come off of a game, you're trying to correct the things that need to be corrected and build off the positives. I think the first thing was, as a team, we played really hard. We set the tone physically, which is something that, we talked about. We want that to be our trademark, right? We want that to be who we are. Offensively, we ran the ball effectively for 6.1 a carry. 0 penalties on offense, which is always something you worry about going into week one. We did hit some explosive plays and touchdowns, which was good. We weren't overly explosive last year for the most part. We spread the ball around, 6 different ball carriers, 9 different guys with receptions. Defensively, you got to start with the 3 sudden change stops. That was phenomenal for them to do that, in 3 trips to only give up 6 points. That was pretty impressive, limited explosives. They only had 2 on offense, didn't, stop the run with really a really light box, for less than 2 yards a carry. And we're really good on third downs, in special teams. We played really, really fast. The execution from the specialists, snapper, holder, kicker was really good on PAT field goals. I thought our kids really played with effort, which on special teams like that makes up for a lot of things, right? You play hard down the field and you got a chance. Kickoff return was pretty good. When a team starts sky kicking and you can still turn those into efficient or explosive returns, that's obviously something that, is a benefit for you. Offensively, third downs with 38% on conversion downs, need to be better than that. 45% is the goal, and we certainly had opportunities to do that. You got to keep drives alive. There were too many 3 and outs for me on offense, and you can't do that. We did struggle at times with some of the twist games and protection. Go back and watch it. Some of it was some difficult stuff. They 2 in a gap, which is not probably the way it was designed, but that's the way it happened, and we got to find a way to bump it and pass it off. And then there were some that, it's one-on-one, you got to win. So got to protect it better. Too many, drops and or missed throws, right? It's not exactly perfect. Quarterback needs to be more accurate. We got to make the play on some of these tough catches, but we have to be more efficient in the pass game. We revamped our pass game and everything last year, and we're building off of that. And last year we weren't efficient enough, and we missed too many Saturday night. That those have to be automatics for us to move the sticks and get into tempo and get into our normal stuff. And then, the most disappointing to me was 0 for 2 on touchdowns in the red zone. As hard as we've worked on it, that was certainly disappointing to say the least. On defense, we got to make sure we keep working our substitution stuff and getting better at that, because that's what people are going to try to do, is tempo you when you're in personnel grouping. So we got to continue to work that. And then on special teams, obviously the muff punt is not very good. Can't have that happen. And Jake, I thought, did a good job bouncing back, making sure Phil and all the rest of them. After Thomas's first punt that he didn't hit very good, his first time as a starter, he settled in. Punted him inside the 10-yard line twice. Did a good job. We covered him pretty well. And then we had a kickoff out of bounds, which is unacceptable. So, a lot of good things to build off of, but certainly there's plenty on that list of things that we got to get better at. And, that's the focus right here. You don't have time to sulk, for sure. You're getting ready to go to a conference game on the road, and, we got to get some of these things fixed if we want to win this week.
First, Zylan, when you saw the replay of Zylan, what did he do wrong, and how did he bounce back mentally, do you think, as well as Jake?
So the first thing is that, which was, these things are sometimes frustrating, is that was the exact look that we worked in practice, and we didn't ID it right, and we didn't block it right up front. So that was the first thing. And those guys did a really good job in the run game up front, but it was a tempo play. We knew how they were going to line up. We didn't execute it, and that's frustrating, when those things happen, because there's enough looks you don't get that when you get it right, you need to get it right. He got loose with the ball. His elbow was above his wrist. He tried to make a jump cut, and the ball was kind of sideways. And, the D lineman, when he came in and split the double team, his helmet just hit right on the ball and it popped out. That ended up being one of the biggest positives of the night, though. Ben runs down the guy who picks up the fumble recovery, tackles him inside the 20, and then our defense stands up. We get a series of negative plays and then a turnover to turn into 0 points. So that ended up being something that as a team we talked about, team football and hustle and effort and how that wins games. And then the defense bows their neck and makes a play. So that led to a series of plays that, in my opinion, were key in that game. We were up 7-3, about to go 14-3. All of a sudden, you fumble it. They go back in the red zone. You could go from you could have easily a 14-point swing there. The thing I told Zylan, I told Coach Burge, the running backs coach, said put him back in the game. The guy is a unique talent, and he's going to be a good player. And you got to put him back in and let him go. And the thing I told him is you still have to go play your game. If you're worried about the fumble, then you're going to fumble. Just protect the football, go back to the technique, keep it tight, lock the back door, wrist above elbow, keep it under the chin, all the things that we talk about all the time. And he played really well after that. So, Zion's going to be a good player for us. And, look, I tell these kids this all the time, I fumble more balls than they're ever going to fumble in their career here, I promise. So, I get it. You just got to play your game and keep playing. And I was proud that he did.
Do you remember the first one?
The first one? Oh, I remember a bunch of them. I don't know if I remember the first one. No, I remember 2 turnovers against Central Florida over here for sure that we ended up losing the game by a field goal. I remember that. But, that wasn't a good night either. But, I remember some of those.
As much as it was great hustle by Ben, you saw your quarterback with a surgically repaired knee running down the field. Any concerns?
No. I mean, I said it before the season. We told Ben, and I told him this, and he and I had like a lot of really candid conversations, about this thing. And I told him, I said, if you can't physically do everything that you need to do to play your game, then you will not play week 1. I mean, I'm not mad at you. Like that's not fair, and this summer, fall camp, I mean, the guy, everything you need to do, he did. I think he's faster than he was before, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I don't want my quarterback tackling people a whole lot, but I mean, in that case, it don't matter. You got to get there, and and so I was proud of him. I mean, shoot, that's an effort play, it's a hustle play, but that's who he is. So I mean, not really surprised. I told him if the quarterback thing didn't work out, move him to DB. I mean, he's running down there pretty good.
And everything, and with watching tape and everything, did Ben play the fullness of his game, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't play his best game, but he did.
What about the defense? Gave up 100 yards in the first half, was 40 in the second half until the last play. Defense played pretty well.
Defense played really well. That group, I think, has just consistently gotten better, from where we started fall camp. And truthfully, we start fall camp and you're just a little concerned. You look at all the new faces and things out there, and they've just done the work every day. I don't know. I've been here. This is my 8th season being here in some capacity as a coach, and I've never seen a defensive unit practice as hard as those guys practice. Even we had great defenses, they didn't practice with the same intensity. And so, I mean, the work's the work. And if you do it, you're going to get better. And our defensive coaching staff has done a phenomenal job of speeding up those guys' development that needed to be sped up. We were able to play a bunch of guys again last night. In the last drive, we had a lot of young players in there that, eye discipline becomes an issue. Good play call by them. Tough defend anyway, right? No matter what you do when you talk about the wheel routes out of the backfield. But we had guys in position. We just kind of lost our eye discipline. So those are things that we can correct and fix and work on moving forward. But all in all, I mean, I was tremendously proud of the physicality they played with, really the competitive discipline that they showed to do their job correctly over and over again. And, that's what you need on defense. Don't no more, no less. Do your 111th and let everybody else do theirs.
Defensive front looked like they did a lot of good things. Were there a couple guys that sort of stood out when you went back to look at it?
I mean, not necessarily. Like I thought they did a really good job of doing their job. I mean, we didn't do much, honestly, up front. We didn't move the front. We didn't do a lot of stuff because, we were pretty much committed with the style of offense they played to staying with keeping a 5-man box, a light box, and letting those guys play. So that meant if we stunted and moved a whole lot, we were going to have issues right there. So we let them play it straight up. And, that's not necessarily been our strong suit over time. It's been more of the movements and things like that. But that's kind of what this game dictated a little bit. And, I thought it was really good. A guy like Jordan Lawson, maybe, who typically that's not his deal, right? He's usually on the edge and he's got, working a soft edge and he's doing his thing out there athletically. We told him, hey, man, like, we're going to need you to play a bunch of 4-eye this week and strike the tackle and hold the B gap. And he did it and did it really well. So, I kind of love that about this team, and that they're so selfless. You ask them, hey, you're going to be a B gap fitter all day. Like, you might not make a tackle, but your job's important. You tell the linebackers, listen, it's a light box. There's no edge. Like, you're going to be the spill guy. So you're not going to make all the tackles this week. You're going to have to spill it to someone else. And none of them bat an eye. They just do their job over and over again. And, it's kind of funny how much can get done when no one really cares about who's getting credit. That was one of the best defensive performances we've ever had. And some of our best players statistically probably doesn't look that great, but they played their tails off out there and they did their jobs extremely well.
Is Mason expected back this week?
We're going to give Mason as much time as he needs, and certainly, that's more important for him to take care of things on his family end back there. I know we hope he is, obviously, as much as anything, just to be able to hug him, put our arms around him and be with him. But that's selfishly, we want him back. So I talked to him after the game Saturday. He was, in good spirits, and his dad had a long, he's been battling for a long time, man. And so there's some comfort in that, but certainly, there is no comfort in dealing with what he's dealing with in general. So as long as he needs, he's going to be there, and we support him however much time he needs, whatever he needs.
The safeties, as far as communication and doing what they're supposed to do, what did you see?
Thought it was really good. We rolled some guys back there. Tyrone Lewis Jr. has been just a phenomenal communicator the entire time. Cortland Flowers has just grown up so much in this leadership role that he's in, playing out there. Tyree Skipper, every time you look up, it seems like he's around the football. He plays relentless football. I think T. Lou is the best communicator back there, like the loudest, most vocal, most assertive. But when he's not in there, they all have the ability to do it. He's just kind of taking that role a little bit. But then, you throw in some of those young guys, you see Jalen Clark running around out there, Cody Jackson at the end, getting Keyborns more and more work, including on special teams. So it was good to see those guys play. The young guys went there and played well, which is kind of, say it all the time, you never really know until they go and do it under the lights. So that was good to see, though. Those guys, they were ready for it.
What about ODU?
So watching these guys, offensively, they've got speed on the outside, which is really what you need to run this offense. Their receivers, number 5, I think, and 4. I don't have my sheet in front of me. Really have some juice and can go. The backup outside receiver hit a seam touchdown against Virginia Tech. They've got speed out there. I think their running backs do a really good job. They're going to get what's there. Quarterback's a veteran in this system. He transferred over from Fordham with these guys. On the O-line, they're dense in the middle. They're athletic and long at tackle, so I think they're built well for this offense. Defensively, I think, it kind of looks like they've maybe made an identity shift from what they were. They committed to going straight to this 3 safety stuff against Virginia Tech. So it'll be interesting to see if that's kind of what they are. I don't see why they would see that as the answer against Virginia Tech unless that's what they are, with the style of play they have. But they're built well for that as well. They got 3 big, dense D linemen that hold gaps. They have 2 linebackers that absolutely, fly to the football. And then they've got 3 pretty darn good safeties too that run to the ball. So it spills all out to them, and they've got the speed to get it down. So, they're a stout football team. I think on defense, I think they play tough. I think they fly around. They're really physical. And I think on offense, I think they do a lot of things that causes you problems with these wide splits and tempo, light box runs that they have. They've got they've got some good schemes for these boxes, and they have an identity in what they're going to do there too. So haven't got to see much of special teams yet. I would imagine it's pretty good, though, with the team speed that they have.
After getting the kinks out of week 1, what's like the main focus you want to get into for your team as you head to ODU?
I don't know if the kinks are out. That's what we got to do. That's what it is. You got to fix those things. You got to execute better. you got to convert on third downs. You know, I mean, as many third down reps as we take, we've got to convert on those. We got to stay on the field. Offensively, we got to be more efficient in the pass game. I think this is a game. There's, what they do on defense limits their explosives. So it's not going to be like last game where, okay, you got, 2 or 3 and outs, but you can come back and you can kind of hit an explosive and get back to it quick. It's not the way that their defense is set up. Their defense, you're going to have to take the gimmies. You're going to have to get dirty yards in the runs and turn a 3-yard gain into 4 or 5. And as an offense, you're going to have to be comfortable taking those things. But going along with taking that is that you have to execute really cleanly. Otherwise, if you're behind the sticks, they're not giving up big plays. I mean, against Virginia Tech, I think they gave up, 8% of the plays in the game were explosives, which is not much. And some of them were pretty darn good plays by a couple of their players, So it's not like you can just hang your hat on, we'll get it back on an explosive. They play defense to limit that. So we got to get that fixed offensively. And then defensively, we got to figure out what's the best plan for these guys, It's similar to last week, but different in some ways as well. So we got to figure out, is it similar game plan? Is it more 4 down? Is it, is it more pressure? Is it whatever? So, you got to figure out what's going to be the fit. And then we got to make sure on a normal week with just 7 days to prepare, we got to be able to get it installed, taught, and coached and recoached the right way before we get to Saturday.
Corey, so within the staff, what can you remember in the opener last year via communication amongst you guys, kind of leading into that first game and during that first game versus the other night, and kind of what were those differences? How did it work better amongst the staff? Obviously, having all those guys back, was it cleaner and more efficient for you guys?
Yeah, it was. I'll start with the defense. I flip over and listen to the calls, obviously, so I know the calls that are going in and kind of know what's happening. The communication between our defensive staff is from week 1 of last year. I'd even say from the bowl game last year to right now, the communication's so much cleaner and just more efficient. And it's easier right now on defense. And, we did have one substitution issue on defense, and our goal was to have none. As a staff, that's what I told our staff. Like, our goal as a coaching staff, which you're always trying to do, all right, which kind of pertains to this question, as a coaching staff, the last thing you want to do is to do something as a staff that hurts your players, right? Everything as a coach you want to do, you want to put your players in position to go out there. And then it comes down to execution, right? It's player versus player. But as a coach, that's like the unforgivable whenever you do those things. So I thought they did a really good job because we do play a lot of guys. We do have a lot of personnel groupings. And that was the one time that kind of back and forth on personnel, balls on the 4 hash. They didn't sub, and we had a little bit of issue, but I thought that's been really good. Offensively, I think our halftime adjustments have been really good. We talked about adjusting some of the protection so we could get the ball off on these shots, and that's when we hit the shot to Pete. We talked about some of the outside zones that hit early. They made adjustments as well, and they started playing outside, and so we went to some of the more inside zone and split flow zone stuff. So there were a lot of good conversations for us offensively on the sideline, but particularly when we got to halftime so that we could coach it, because some of those things we hadn't really, I don't say we hadn't worked, but some of them were adjustments that maybe weren't just normal part of the game plan. So we had to get to that. So I thought the communication stuff was much better. It's been a lot easier on special teams, with, especially Luke as a quality control guy. He's got to get the calls into the staff and get all that stuff done. So all that has been a lot better. And, I kind of went back into last year and kind of looked at some of the stuff, and it was a much better played game on our part, even with some of the turnovers. Whereas last year the opener was a little bit of a struggle, truthfully. So some of that stuff is positive and improving, but it's like anything. You don't ever. You never walk off the field and say, yep, we got it. Especially after that one, I didn't feel that way. So there's still work for us to do as well as a staff to continue to improve those things.